The global economy relies on hidden physical systems, massive grain silos and bulk carrier ports that dictate who commands resources and who merely consumes them. In 2001, an investment bank acronym categorized Brazil, Russia, India, and China as high-growth emerging markets. Today, that conceptual framework has transformed into a formal intergovernmental organization with the explicit goal of restructuring the global order. The 2024 Kazan summit expansion accelerated this shift. By adding nations like Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the UAE, the bloc's demographic weight now accounts for nearly half of the world's population. This population base translates to significant economic gravity, with the expanded coalition controlling roughly 35% of global GDP. And their physical influence is massive. Member states now oversee 40% of global grain exports and 30% of total oil production. This control over essential commodities provides the leverage necessary to challenge the structural advantages that Western market democracies have historically enjoyed. On paper, BRICS possesses the demographic and resource mass required to independently dictate the terms of the global economy. To translate this resource wealth into financial power, the group established the Contingent Reserve Arrangement, or CRA. It is their primary mechanism for protecting member states against liquidity crises and Western financial pressure. The CRA functions as a $100 billion pool of currency swaps, engineered as a non-Western alternative to lending programs controlled by the Bretton Woods institutions. The fund is underwritten by a significant power imbalance. China contributes $41 billion to the pool, while South Africa provides only $5 billion. This capital comes with structural constraints. A member state can only independently access 30% of its maximum drawing amount. To unlock the remaining 70%, members must submit to an existing agreement with the International Monetary Fund. To utilize the bulk of their reserve pool, BRICS nations must accept the macroeconomic monitoring of the very institution they designed the CRA to bypass. Despite its massive scale and stated ambitions of autonomy, BRICS remains structurally tethered to the US-led financial architecture. The bloc's most tangible institutional achievement is the New Development Bank. Operating from its headquarters in Shanghai, with over $52 billion in capital, it provides a direct alternative to the World Bank. The NDB's primary differentiator is its rejection of traditional macroeconomic conditionalities. While the IMF and World Bank often tie loans to specific domestic policy adjustments or governance reforms, the NDB does not. By providing capital for infrastructure and sustainable development without these political requirements, the bank allows emerging economies to secure funding while maintaining their national sovereignty. But infrastructure is only part of the puzzle. The group must also address the transactional layer of the global economy, specifically the reliance on the US-controlled SWIFT messaging network. With the US dollar used in over 80% of international trade, the United States utilizes SWIFT as a tool for coercive diplomacy, imposing economic penalties on nations that deviate from its geopolitical alignments. As a technological countermeasure, the bloc is developing BRICS Pay. This blockchain-based network is designed to settle cross-border trades directly in local national currencies, effectively moving transactions entirely outside of US jurisdiction. The NDB and BRICS Pay function as engineered escape routes, designed to neutralize the impact of Western economic sanctions. This strategy for autonomy is also being applied to physical commodities. The 2024 Kazan Declaration officially endorsed the creation of a BRICS grain exchange. The expanded bloc controls roughly 44% of global grain production and consumption, giving them significant leverage in agricultural markets. Currently, member nations must price and trade their commodities through Western exchanges, such as the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Because these legacy exchanges are priced in US dollars, developing nations are forced to absorb the volatility and inflation of the American economy. The proposed BRICS grain exchange would create a closed-loop trading platform where physical grain and derivatives are settled entirely in local currencies. By removing the dollar from the agricultural trade cycle, BRICS intends to insulate member food security from Western economic leverage. While the architecture of this counter-system is expansive, its implementation is hampered by deep internal rivalries. China alone accounts for 70% of the organization's total GDP, creating a massive economic imbalance that makes equal integration difficult. The most significant barrier to deeper cooperation is the long-standing territorial dispute between the bloc's two primary powers, India and China. In 2020, rising tensions along the disputed Himalayan border suddenly escalated into a lethal military clash in the Galwan Valley. This crisis led to a 5-year freeze in bilateral relations, during which India banned numerous Chinese digital applications and placed heavy restrictions on Chinese investments. A diplomatic breakthrough occurred at the 2024 Kazan summit, where a new patrolling agreement restored the pre-2020 status quo in the Depsang Plains. Despite this thaw, India maintains a dual alignment strategy, using BRICS to amplify the global south while simultaneously strengthening its strategic partnerships with the West. This pragmatic caution prevents the bloc from adopting radical measures, such as a unified BRICS currency, which India views as a potential threat to its own financial interests. Mutual mistrust prevents the organization from achieving seamless integration, leaving BRICS a fragmented coalition of rivals. This fragmentation defines the true nature of the expanded BRICS Plus architecture. The inclusion of new members brings together bitter geopolitical foes, such as Saudi Arabia and Iran, who often have diverging interests. These nations are not united by a single anti-Western ideology. They are united by a desire for national sovereignty and a resistance to unipolar coercion. Membership allows these middle powers to retain diplomatic flexibility, using the bloc as leverage, while continuing to negotiate separately with the United States. The alliance serves as a collective insurance policy for the global south. The ascent of BRICS Plus does not signal the immediate or dramatic collapse of the US dollar. The systemic shift is a gradual diffusion of economic power across a growing network of financial nodes. The established Western nodes do not disappear. Instead, the global financial system becomes increasingly redundant and decentralized. The transition away from the Bretton Woods system is a slow, methodical erosion. In this multipolar environment, the structural advantages that advanced market democracies have long enjoyed will slowly diminish. Global leadership is no longer a unipolar mandate. It is a position that must be strategically and constantly negotiated.